Good evening. Welcome to the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. My name is Dr. Maxwell Ubah. Today I'm sitting in for my brother, my friend, the Africa's #1 emotional intelligence and resilience expert, Chike Onyia. What's the purpose of the vision of this show? The goal is to change one life and one family at a time. If every Friday we bring a word, a message, a topic that changes one life or one family at a time, then we'll say that this show has been a success. I want to welcome you today. Today is going to be a very special show. So from wherever you are joining us, whether you are joining us from Nigeria, in Lagos, or Abuja, Port Harcourt, or outside Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, Senegal, the US, London, I'd like to welcome you to this show. Today we are going to talk about becoming a star performer at work. At the end of this show, you'll know who a star performer is, why you need to become a star performer, and how to become a star performer. So I want you to call your family, call your friends, tell them to join this show, because this show today will bless you, will challenge you, will teach you things that will make you, for Monday, if you apply it, you'll begin to see the results that the result in your work. So let's get started. A star performer. Who is a star performer? I know we all desire to be star performers at work, but who is a star performer? Let's take a simple definition of a star performer. The first thing I'd like to say is that a star performer is first and foremost a high performer. That's the first thing I want to say here. And when you talk about a high performer, what do we mean? We mean someone that consistently delivers on business results and exceeds expectations. That's what a high performer is. So a star performer is first and foremost a high performer. Now, when we teach the concept of work, we tell people that there are two things that you need to consider every time we teach the concept of work. The first is output, and the second is standard or expectations. Let's take the two and address them this evening. Output is what you have done. That's what output is. Output is coming to the end of your efforts. That's what output is. If you take a student, when a student writes his exams and turns in the paper, that is output. When the chef finishes preparing the meal and serves the meal, that is output. Output is when you get to that point from your own perspective where you say it is finished. That is your output. When an employee sends the report to the boss, once it leaves your table, once you get to that point where you feel, I have finished my job, I have done my part, that is output. But you see, in the concept of work is not defined only by output. If work is defined only by output, it means that every student who writes an exam should come out with an A or even a B. If work is defined by output alone, it means that every chef that prepares the meal, you will give the chef a good mark. And I'm sure you've gone to one or two restaurants to eat, and by the time you finish eating the food, you were disappointed. Although the chef, in quote, has an output, in the context of work, we say that the chef has not fully worked. What's the second aspect of our work equation? The second is called standard or expectation. So every output is judged by a standard. Every output is judged by the expectation of the end user. Only when that output meets or exceeds the expectation of the end user would you say that that person has truly worked. So if you use this simple equation of output versus standard or expectation, you find out that people will be in one of three classes or categories. The first is the person whose output is less than standard. This is a student that has written an exam, and in the mind of the student, I have done my best. But by the time the examiner looks at what the student has written, the examiner feels that this person did not do enough. So output less than standard, we call that failure. Output less than standard is failure. The next is output equal to standard. When output meets standard, we say that's good enough. Your output met standard. But when output exceeds standard, that's exceptional, that's extraordinary, that is excellent, that's outstanding. And when we talk about a star performer, we are talking about individuals whose output consistently exceeds expectation. So that's the first thing I want you to understand about a star performer. Their output exceeds expectation. It means that star performers understand what the expectation of the end users are, and they go the extra mile. They meet and they go one step further, and they exceed expectation. You know, that's the first thing I want you to know about a star performer. That a star performer is first and foremost a high performer. And this is not sporadic high performance. What do I mean? Today you're performing well, tomorrow you are not. There's a measure of consistency when you talk about a star performer. But there's a second aspect of a star performer beyond just exceeding expectations. I believe that the second aspect is that star performers help their team to shine, and they contribute to the success of their team, the organization, their colleagues. Because you can have a disruptive high performer. So even though that person's output exceeds expectation, that person is very disruptive. He comes to the team, he wants all the attention to be on him or her. He's very condescending. He speaks to people in a condescending manner. He's very dismissive of others because of his performance. So even though he's a high performer, I won't call him a star performer in this context, because a star performer not only exceeds expectations, a star performer also helps the team to shine. He wants the team at the end of the day to do well. So if you check on Wednesday at Atlanta versus Bayer Leverkusen played, and Ademola Lookman in that context was a star performer. He scored the 3 goals that made Atlanta to win, but he didn't just want all the spotlight to be on him. At the end of the day, he helped that team to win. So star performers think beyond their individual performance. So how would I help my team, my colleague, my organization to win? So this is the definition of a star performer. Individuals who exceed expectations consistently and also contribute to the success of their team, the organization, and even the nation at large. And you will agree with me that there are star performers in every sphere of life. If you go to football, we can mention names of star performers. If you go to lawn tennis, there are star performers in lawn tennis. If you go to basketball, there are star performers in basketball. If you go to Formula One, there are star performers in Formula One. If you go to businesses, there are star performers. In every sphere of life, there are star performers. These are the individuals that make a difference to their organizations and their team. Okay, so let's put this in a bucket. I like teaching with acronyms, and so in order to use acronyms, I'll say there are 4 characteristics of star performers. Number 1 here is superior result. S is superior result. They deliver consistently. They exceed expectations. They go the extra mile. Is superior result. Number 2 is T. T says that they are great team players. Remember, I've talked about a disruptive high performer versus a star performer. You can achieve results, but if you are very disruptive, we won't put you in that category of a star performer. We'll call you a disruptive high performer. So in number 2 is that they are great team players. So I've known Chike for 10 years, and we've worked together. We've gone to Ghana together, to Liberia, to Dubai. We've done things together. Great team players. And for me, it's been a privilege working with him over this last 10 years. So it's not just about superior results. In what Chike does in emotional intelligence and resilience, is one of the very best, if not the very best, in the whole of the African continent. But he's also a great team player. So that's number 2, that star performers deliver superior results, but they are great team players. Now, A can be, you can call A different ways: attitude, adaptability, but let me use attitude. The star performers, they have the right attitude, and that attitude is no excuse mindset. They don't give excuses every now and then. So in the average Nigerian context, you find people giving excuses every now and then. And the last point is our star performers are resilient. Sometimes, yes, they might not hit their target, but guess what they do? They learn from the lesson, they bounce back, and they tell themselves next year we need to go again. So I see star performance. If I take about the resilience, there's a band of competitiveness. So if you take any team, if you go to the game of sports, for example, in Spain, Real Madrid won the DCA, the league, and Barcelona is likely to come second. So there's a band of competitiveness. We didn't win it this year, but next year we need to go again. They learned the lessons. So why did we not win it? What can we do better? How do we make the changes? And they bounce back. And next year you see them, they come back strong. So these are the 4 qualities of star performers. They deliver superior results. They're great team players. They have the right attitude to their work, to others, and they are very resilient. And Chike is the resilient expert. I'm sure in one of these series every Friday, if you make it a date with us with the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show every Friday, I'm sure you will learn a lot about resilience. Now you know who a star performer is. The next thing I want to talk about before I go into how to become a star performer is, why do you need to become a star performer? And we can take this at 3 levels: from an individual level, from an organizational level, and from a national level. From an individual level, I want to break this into 2, and after this we'll go for a short break. And after the short break, I would open the phone lines where you can make your comment and be a part of this conversation. The numbers will show on the screen, and I will tell you the numbers if you're listening on this call. But from an individual level, why do you need to be a star performer? I think there are 2 reasons in 2 buckets. Reason number 1 is internal, and reason number 2 is external. So this is also the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. In reason number 1, internal, I want to use the word personal fulfillment. Now, see, there's something about excellence. There's something about going the extra mile. There's something about exceeding expectation that gives you that sense of pride and dignity, that sense, that feeling of satisfaction that you cannot trade for anything else. When you deliver excellent work, there's first and foremost is that internal sense of pride that comes by delivering excellent work. And once you taste it, you would never want to go back. You see, the reason why a lot of people are mediocre, and the word mediocrity is simply average, ordinary, so-so. The reason why a lot of people are mediocre is that they've not tasted excellence. Once you taste excellence, you will not want to go back. Victor Hugo says that a man's mind stretched with a new idea would not return to its original dimensions. Once you've experienced excellence, you will not want to go back to the life of ordinariness. Now, I want to give you a quote by John Wooden. John Wooden is the legendary American basketball coach. Died, I think, in 2010. But he said something, and it's one of my personal philosophy. He says, success is peace of mind, which is the direct result of the self-satisfaction that comes from knowing that you gave your best to become the best you are capable of becoming. I need to take that again. You know, John Wooden says that success is peace of mind. I said that peace of mind comes from the satisfaction of knowing that you gave your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. Once you get to that point where you say, I gave my best, I gave my all, this is the very best I could have done, and you are satisfied. When I mean you've pushed the boundaries of performance, and you've gotten to that point where you've redefined the industry landscape. Steve Jobs calls it distorting the reality feed. So reality distortion feed. You've pushed the boundaries of reality. You've come up with an invention. You've come up with a product. You've broken new ground. It says success, first and foremost, is that peace of mind that comes from knowing that you gave your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. If you look at this from a psychological standpoint, what is guilt? From a psychological standpoint, guilt is the gap between your values and your actions. So when you do something that you're not supposed to do, or you did not do what you're supposed to do, you feel guilty. So every time you live below your standard of excellence, deep within, you would experience that burning, that guilt deep within. So he says that the only way to live a peaceful life is knowing that you gave life your best. The starting point, the first benefit of being a star performer is that benefit of peace internally, that you can live every day as you go back home, that today I gave my very best to my organization. What's the second benefit? The second benefit is external. And in the external benefit, we are talking about rewards, recognition, promotion. We'll be taking a short break now. And when we come back, I will continue with this concept. Don't change. Don't don't go off the channel. We'll come back shortly and we'll open the phone lines and we'll continue with the benefits of being a star performer. Thank you. This is the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. I am Dr. Maxwell. Okay, welcome back. This is the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. My name is Dr. Maxwell Ubah, and I'm sitting in for my brother, my friend, on this particular show today. Today we're talking about becoming a star performer. That's what we're talking about. We defined a star performer that first and foremost, a star performer is a high performer. If you're just joining us, so let me just give you a summary of what we have said in the first segment, that a star performer is first and foremost a high performer, someone that goes out and exceeds target expectation. But in addition, a star performer also contributes to the success of the team. We said that star performers, if you use an acronym, STAR, they deliver superior results, they are great team players, they have the right attitude, and they are very resilient. So even if they face challenges, they find a way to solve that particular problem. We ended by talking about why you need to be a star performer. We said from an individual perspective, there are two reasons. The intrinsic part, which is the self-satisfaction that you get, the sense of the dignity, the feeling of fulfillment that you get from delivering excellent result. And then the external part is the recognition, promotion. You know, that I want to, that recognition, best staff of the year, best staff of the month, that recognition that you get, the rewards, a trip to Dubai, the promotion, that's what you get. In my book, Success at Work, I wrote something that I would like to read about the reason for delivering excellence, so which is the external part. So this is a book I wrote 2020, and I said that if there's one decision that you need to make to succeed in a competitive business environment, is the decision for you to be excellent, to be extraordinary, to be a star performer. I said, why is that so? If you are ordinary, you cannot command attention as you'll be lost in the crowd. So in this case, you're a commodity. And you agree with me, if you're ordinary, you're lost in the crowd. And I said, if you're lost in the crowd or you're a commodity, you can easily be substituted without people noticing the difference or your absence. So think about it. People can substitute certain things for all, and you can't notice it. But there are certain products that you cannot substitute. Once you do that, people would notice their presence or their absence. They'll say, this is not this person. They can tell. You know, sometimes you go to an eatery, you eat and say, this was not the last chef that prepared the last food. You can tell the difference. So I said, as a result of that, if people can substitute you easily, it means that your switching cost or the cost of replacing you is extremely low or near zero. So if you can't be easily substituted or your switching cost is low, you cannot attract a premium, as people will not pay this extra for sameness. And if you can't attract a premium, then you do not have negotiating power. So you can see that if you're ordinary, you'll be lost in the crowd. If you're ordinary, you're a commodity, your switching cost is low, you can't attract a premium. So the only way for you to attract a premium in life, in your office, in your organization. Your negotiating power is simply your point of difference. If you produce the same thing that every other person produces in the office, you don't have any power to negotiate. The only way you can negotiate in an organization is by the value that you bring, because you know that you are a star performer. Now, that's from an individual perspective. If you go to organizational perspective, I'll be opening the phone line in a minute. From an organizational perspective, tell me, look at all the organizations that are successful today. They are star performers in a certain area. You see Apple, is it Tesla? You can mention organizations, is it Google, Amazon? They are star performers in a certain area. You can be a big gun organization, but you cannot be a great organization except you are producing something that makes you outstanding. And so that's an organizational perspective. So star performers individuals will create star performing organizations, and the same thing with the nation. If you create an environment where people can go the extra mile and deliver results, it will reflect in your GDP. You move from a developing country to from a third world country to a first world country. So whether from a national, organizational, or an individual perspective, it's important and imperative for us to go above and beyond and deliver excellence. Before I go into how do we become star performers, I'd like to open the phone lines, and the number to call, they're showing on the screen, 091 6000 2661. 091 6000 2661 or 091 6000 2662. And if you want to send us a message on WhatsApp, it's 091 6000 2663. So we want to open the phone line. Please feel free for you to call, chime in, talk to us about anything about a star performer you want to add to the conversation, you want to ask a question, you want to make a contribution, or you know somebody that is a star performer you want to celebrate. It's also an opportunity for you to use those lines to call. 091 6002 661, 091 6000 2662, or 091 6000 2663 for WhatsApp messages. So that's what we're talking about today, becoming a star performer. Becoming a star performer. So we've defined who a star performer is. We've talked about why you need to be a star performer. I think the next part, while we wait for people to call in, the next part will be, how do we become star performers at work? That's the next part. How do you become a star performer at work? And in order for me to do this, I need to tell you a story of my life. For example, in primary 5, I noticed in primary 5, because this story will lead me to the first point. Okay, is there a call? Okay, there's a call. Okay, in primary school, I noticed, this is the end.
Good evening, sir.
Oh, okay, go. Wow, good evening. Good evening.
Sir, my name is Halima.
Your name is what?
Halima.
Halima.
Yes.
Where are you calling from, Halima?
Calling from Lagos, sir.
Lagos. Okay, so you want to make a comment? You want to contribute to our discussion this evening?
Yes, I want to ask a question. You've been so wonderful.
What's the line is
really
the line is breaking, Halima.
I think.
Do you want to call back? Please call back. It would be nice to get your question, and the question will also throw it open so that anybody that wants to answer the question can feel free to answer the question. I think there's another call coming in. Okay, so while we wait for the call to come in, Halima, please try and call back so that we can take your call and take your question. So let me tell you an example, because this is about becoming a high performer. The first point. Oh, they said that. Okay. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Who is this?
Okay, it's Menora calling from Owerri.
Menora, did I get it right?
Yes, Menora calling from Owerri, sir.
Oh, okay, Menora. So tell me, you want to contribute? You want to ask a question? You have the floor.
Yes, I want to contribute.
Okay, please.
My own contribution there. First and foremost, I will start with Sir Chike Onyia is a very good example of a star performer.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, It has been a while I've been joining this program. I've learned a lot about him. Especially, I love that word resilience. He
Okay.
always uses the word resilience. So he's a very good example of a star performer. And
Okay.
to me, a star performer is someone who consistently exceeds expectations. The
Okay.
person, a star performer, also demonstrates exceptional skills and contributes significantly to the success of their team or organization.
Okay. Thank
So,
you. Thank you, Menora. Thank you for that comment. Thank you.
all right,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Is there any other person on the line? Let's take other people. There's somebody else on the line. Let's. Okay. Hello.
Hello, good
Hello. Good evening.
evening.
Hello. Good evening. You have the floor. Can we know your name and where you're calling from?
Okay, my name is Joe Max. I'm calling from Kogi State.
Joe Max from Kogi.
Yes.
Okay. So you have the floor.
Okay. Well, I think that everyone has to be a star performer in life. The reason is we come across incidents every day where discouragement abounds, and you don't even know who is the next you are meeting that needs encouragement. And by everybody being one, you have something to offer per time. You have something that you can use to change the life of someone per time. I think I had a scenario some hours ago returning from my farm. Then I got to meet this young man who was seated on the road to a farm. It's actually not a nice road to sit and relax, but he was seated looking confused. And then I had to walk up to him, bro, what's up? What's happening? This place is dangerous to sit. And, having to encourage him and talk to him about some things. He was already on his way to doing something nasty and that would involve him taking his life. But you see, when you have it inside of you, you can change life anytime. You can make somebody see reasons to live again. You can make somebody see reasons to embrace some kind of possible hard times and all of that. So I think it's always good for everyone to even strive towards being a star performer per time.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone has to strive to be a
Yeah.
star performer. Thank you, Joe Max. Let's get, if there's any other person on the call, remember the numbers to call is 091 6002 661 and 091 6002 662. If you want to send us a message by WhatsApp so that we can read your message, is 091 6002 663. Do you have somebody else on the call? Okay, so let me talk about this story. Then we'll take somebody. Let me talk about this story. So many years ago, this was primary 5. So I take you back to primary school, primary 5, and this was the final third term PTA Parent Teachers Association gathering. And Maxwell Ubah was an average student. So average is mediocre. Average student in primary school, primary 5. I noticed that at the end of that, the PTA for every class, the overall first, overall second, overall third was called out and given an award. And I saw my colleagues, they were clapping for primary 1, primary 2. It got to primary 5, and they called the first, they called the third, they came up, and the parents were there, they took picture. The second came up, and the first came up. And there was I just sitting in the audience with my parents and the rest, and I felt so, not ashamed, but I said, wow, Maxwell, this could have been you. And you know what I said to myself? I said to myself, in primary 6, I'm going to win this award in primary 6. There and then I made a decision that in primary 6 I'm going to win this award. And guess what? For the first time in my life, the first time I actually came first in my life was primary 6. And from then there was no looking back, so to speak. Primary 6, because I made a decision. So the first thing here in becoming a star performer is the realization that you are bigger and better than what you're currently producing. Until you get to that point where you realize that I am better than what I am currently producing. So I was happy with my current state. I was happy with my output until I saw that I am bigger and better than what I am currently producing. That is the starting point in the journey of high performance, star performance. And okay, I'm getting feedback that somebody is on the line before I continue. Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Who's on the call?
Yeah, this is Lawal calling from Osun State.
Lawal from Osun.
Lawal Mashud from Osun State.
Okay, Lawal Mashud from Osun State. Okay.
Yes.
Talk to us.
Yeah, I would like to contribute about this a star performer.
Please.
To me, looking at a star performer from the economic aspect, I see a star performer as someone that the demand in the labor force looks like that of a perfectly inelastic demand. That is giving out his best, no matter is the price, no matter where he places his price, as in his income, people will still hire him at the same demand. As in, no matter
because it's almost his
at
value.
everything
His
he does.
value is it's not something you can easily substitute. You can't find, they are rare. You can't.
Yes, his value is very rare.
It's very rare. People, they have in-demand skills, and I'll talk about skills in becoming a high performer or a star performer. Thank you, Lawal Moshood from Osun State. Thank you. So the first thing I said in becoming a star performer is that realization. This is like the prodigal son coming to your senses. You know, a lot of us are satisfied with mediocrity, but that awareness that I can be bigger and better than where I am is the realization. And if you understand this concept, realization says that we all have just like Joe Marx says, everybody has to be a star performer. Everybody has the potential to become a star performer, but we know that potential will not necessarily translate to reality except certain things happen. And that realization that I can be bigger, I can be better than where I am is the starting point. So in this realization, I said to myself, there are 3 mindsets in this realization. So somebody might call it have the right mindset or the right attitude, but I just call it the realization that I can be bigger and better than where I am. There's 3 sub-mindset. That is the mindset I tell people is the I can, I will, I must. Now let me take them one after the other, then we'll go to the phone line. In the I can is that realization that I can be a star performer. And Obama built his campaign that took him, the first black man, into the White House on just the premise that yes, we can. Until you believe in your possibility and your capacity, life will close the door for you. Life opens the door only to those who believe that they can. Henry Ford says whether you believe you can or you believe you cannot, either way you are correct. I'm trying to remember the author that says that no man can climb above the limitations of his own beliefs. It's our belief that determines how high we go in life. It's our belief that determines whether we'll come out with a first class or a 2-1. It's our belief that determines whether we'll make our businesses will flourish or whether we'll be in the top 20% in the organization. It starts with the belief. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. That particular quote by Solomon is the foundation of modern philosophy, because the foundation of modern philosophy is by a quote by René Descartes. And René Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. So the starting point is that belief that I can. So believe I can is the starting point. Is the Carol Dweck calls it the growth mindset, fixed and growth mindset. I don't want to go into it because of my time, but I believe that I can actually be a star performer. I can actually come out with first class. I can actually be a top performer in my organization. So that's the starting point. When I saw that in primary 5 and I said, next year I'm going to, and next year, guess what? I actually came first next year with an average score of, I think 89.9 or 90% in primary 6 first time. So that's the starting point. The second, under the subset of the belief, the realization is that I will. I will says that is the determination. You see, everybody can, the motivational speakers can tell you, just say, I can, I can, I can. And everybody can make the mantra, I can, I can. When push comes to shove, as they say, or when the rubber meets the road, that determination that I will be a star performer. In this organization, I'm going to break records. My name will be known in this organization. That's the determination. So in I will, it's not just I can. Everybody can say I can. I will says I am determined to be a star performer. And the third part of the belief is I must. I must says I will do whatever it will take in order for me to be a star performer. It says becoming a star performer is not something that is easy, but it's possible. It requires you to put what the experts call discretionary effort. It requires you not to take the path of least resistance. The average human being wants to do something that is easy and simple and rest. The average human being will rather watch television than read his or her book, rather watch television than resolve a customer complaint. We like to follow the path of least resistance, but star performers do not follow the path of least resistance. So in that realization that you're bigger and better than where you are or what you're currently producing, I said there are 3 subsets. The subset of I can be a star performer, I will be a star performer, and I must. Whatever it will take me, the sacrifices, the pain, whatever it will take me, the commitment, the ability, whatever it will take me, I must is the first belief that makes people star performers. Let me take somebody on the call before I continue.
Sorry. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. Who is on the line?
Oh, this is Ali Maxwell calling back.
Oh, Halima, sorry, you were my first caller today and the line went off. So, Halima, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. I said I just want to thank you for everything. We really got the concept of the star performance. But how do you manage or how do you maintain being a star performer if you are in a company where you have an opposition, especially if it's coming from a colleague, like an employee like you, that is bent on destroying everything you do at the workplace? How do you be a star performer in that kind of case?
Okay, thank you. So it's Halima, before I give you the answer, I also want to throw it open to people. Has asked the question, how do you be a star performer in an organization where you have a colleague that is bent on destroying? So there are certain questions I will ask. Why is the colleague bent on destroying your work? That's the first question I want to ask. Number two, remember I said a high star performer has two things. One is a high performer. Two, a star performer is very collaborative. It's a team player. The first thing, easy answer I will give is make friends. You see, in life, they said there are no permanent enemies or friends, just permanent interests. You are in that organization. Why you are in that organization for now? I would want you to try and that colleague, find out where that colleague is coming from. There's some colleagues that they want the spotlight to be on them, they want to be number one and all that, and maybe you are taking his or her shine. You need to find a way, how do I work with this person so that I'm still delivering my result? The good part is a colleague, he's not your boss, so he doesn't determine your performance, he doesn't determine your performance rating. That's the good part. But there's a part of the relationship management part where you need to disarm that colleague by making the colleague feel that we are not competitors here, we have our own targets to meet and all that. I'll say some other things, but I would like any other person that wants to be a part of this to address a colleague. If it was a boss, so it's managing your boss. If it's a colleague, the first thing I want to do is I need to understand where this behavior is coming from. Every behavior is driven by certain intentions. So where is this person acting this way? Have I given this person any reason to behave this way? And if I know that the problem is not from me and the person is still disruptive, then you might need to escalate to your boss. If your boss now sides with him or her, that's a level 2 to say, okay, so what do we do if your boss sides with him or her? But look at what I say here. If you consistently deliver results and people know that you don't have that arrogant attitude, remember I talked about a disruptive person. People know that you are very jovial, friendly with them, you don't have an arrogant attitude, you are not dismissive. You find out that you have a lot of backers by your side against that particular colleague because they know that the problem is not Halima, the problem is actually that person. So if you try to make peace with that person and it's not working, you need to escalate to your boss or escalate to HR. So you just use that escalation mechanism until you get to the point where you can resolve that particular issue. That's what I would say for now. I think we can take a short break. Then when we come back, I'll talk about some other steps to becoming a high performer. Thank you for the people that have called: Halima, Menora, Joe, Max, Lawal. When we come back, we can still take some comments. Thank you. Onyia Speaks live talk show. Thank you for to everyone who has been with us from the beginning of the show, since when Chike started, and even today from the beginning, since when I started. I'm sitting in for Chike Onyia. We're talking about becoming a star performer. We've talked about what a star performer is, someone that consistently delivers results and also is a great team player. We also talked about some qualities: superior results, team player, do I have the right attitude, and they are resilient. We ended by saying, how do you become a star performer? The first thing I said is the realization that you can be better, bigger. The realization that that position is not meant for any man. Until you get to that point where I can be this person, I can be number one, I can displace it. Until you get to that point, you will not become it. And I said under that point, there are 3 sub points: I can, I will, I must. The second thing I want to say here is that, see, star performers go above and beyond. And in order to do that, you need to hold yourself to a high standard. That's the second thing. So if you believe that you can, then you need to set high goals. So in point number 2, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. You need to be tough on yourself. You need to push yourself like never before. So in point number 2 is that you need to hold yourself to a high standard. And holding yourself to a high standard, you need to have your values and your goals needs to be in sync. So one of our values, for example, here is global excellence. And the goal here is, put me anywhere in the world. If you put me in New York, if you put me in London, for example, London, UK, and Singapore, if you put me in Dubai, I want to stand that. And that's the standard I hold for myself in the things that I do in leadership, in strategy, in change management, and culture. And for Chike, in emotional intelligence, in resilience, and in culture. We have that standard. You need to hold yourself to that high standard. One of my philosophy here in that holding yourself to a high standard is Stephen Covey, that says you can be an island of excellence in a sea of mediocrity. So you might be surrounded by mediocre, so what? But for me, I hold myself to a high standard, and based on the standard I hold myself, I set high goals, and those goals drive me. And if you check the word goals, G-O, no G-O-A-L, the first 2 letters in word goals is goal. A goal is something that drives you, that it has kinesthetic energy, it moves you forward. So if you have a goal that doesn't keep you awake at night or wakes you early in the morning, that's not a goal. That's a dream or a delusion or hallucination. A goal is something that you can't wait to get started. You just want to you want to move and the rest. So what I say to you here is that if your organization gives you a particular goal, push it, stretch yourself and say, yes, they've given me this goal, but I want to try and see if I can even exceed that particular goal. And the beauty of that is that if you aim for they say if you aim for the sky, you will land on the mountain. So high star performers have high goals. High goals. They set smart goals, they track progress, they measure it, they look for feedback and all that, and in order for them to meet that. So level number 2 is setting high goals, holding yourself to high standards and setting high goals. I hear there are 1 or 2 people that want to call. I think I can only take 1 or 2 more calls. 091 6002 661 091 6002 662. So you need to hold yourself to high standard level. Third thing that you need to do is that you need to hone your skills. That's point number 3. You see, you cannot deliver high performance without having extraordinary skills. Take any high performer that you want to talk about. Is it football? Is it tennis? Is it business? You find out that these people have taken ordinary skills. They pushed it to a particular point that it looks so outstanding and amazing. So in point number 3 is that high performers, star performers, are people with extraordinary skills. Larry Bird says that a winner is somebody that takes ordinary talent and pushes it to an extraordinary dimensions. That's what star and performers do. They take a particular area, and they want to master, or what I call monopolize, that area. So when it comes to this particular area, they are the very best, because they've done, well, people will call it the 10,000 hour rule, or they've invested time, they've invested energy, they've invested resources, they've gone online, they've studied in this particular area. So you are an IT person, master that thing, push the skill, the envelope. Today, people are talking about artificial intelligence. You know what high performers do? They are on the curve of change. They want to learn everything that is possible in that particular area, because it's something that will put them at the forefront of success. Whether you're a marketer marketing, whatever field you belong to. Number 3 here is that you must take an ordinary skill and develop it to extraordinary dimensions. And you see, talent is inborn. Talent is the flair that comes naturally to you. Skill is not inborn. Skill is what is learned. And let me say this, there's a direct relationship between skill and passion. What do I mean? The more skillful you are in certain stuff, the more passion that you have in that particular area. Okay, there's a call on the line. No call? Okay, so the call has dropped. So, you see, the more skillful that you are, for example, if you are good at something, good at whatever that thing is. Okay, let me take this call. I have okay. Let me take the call. The person is trying to call. Okay, hello?
Hello, sir.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, it's Menor. I called back again.
Okay.
Okay, I want to add up to what I've said before about a high performer. A high performer engages in continuous learning. That means he or she invests in acquiring new skills and knowledge relevant to their jobs or industry.
Okay.
They also build relationships, like they stay in positive relationships with their colleagues and their managers. It also helps them. They also deliver quality work.
Okay.
And also, they take initiatives.
Thank you.
That's in these initiatives, it helps them to be proactive in identifying opportunities for improvement and offering solutions. I think these little points of mine also essentials about
yes, thank you, Menora. We're talking about the concept of skill. You understand? You need to stay up to date. So Menora has added to that. You need to continuously learn. You know, education is what you develop after, or they say learning is what you have after education has stopped. Some of us have gone to school, and every year we're not learning anything. You know what I say to people is that human capital depreciates because every year new things are happening, new inventions, new knowledge is coming out, and if you are not up to date, what you knew 2 years ago has already depreciated by 50%. So you've lost ground. So you in your field. The beauty of this is that if you take star performers, you don't need to be a star performer in everything. You need to be a star performer in one thing. Lewis Hamilton is in Formula 1 with Max Verstappen. A Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi is in football. They are not in basketball. Michael Jordan was in basketball. But in that area, you need to monopolize it. You need to continuously learn. You need to push the envelope of performance. So I've said 3 things. I've said 3 things here, becoming a star performer. Number 1 is that the realization that you're bigger and better. Number 2 is that you need to set high goals for yourself. Number 3 is that you need to develop your skills. Before I go to number 4, there's somebody on the phone line. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
So what's the name and where are you calling from?
My name is Uche and I'm calling from Lagos.
Hi, Uche, you want to add to this conversation?
Yes, mine is a question, really.
Okay.
How does one deal with excellence, and excellence in work not being recognized in this society? I mean, as we all know, this society is one that celebrates nepotism, that celebrates, favoritism, largely over good works and excellent works and being upright. Most people have been frustrated, over giving their best either at work or, at home, at school, at play, wherever, and not getting rewarded as they should because of the state of the country where we live in. So how can one, deal with that and keep on being their best without being, changed?
Okay.
Follow the
Fantastic point you've asked. So, and that would be my last comment for today because we have 10 minutes to round this up. So let me address what Uche has said. Then I'll just put 1 or 2 more points and I'll bring this to a close. Now, Uche, first thing I said is that, remember I said that one of the greatest benefits of becoming a star performer is that joy and satisfaction that you get, and nobody can take that away from you. And remember the quote that I said about Stephen Covey being an island of excellence in a sea of mediocrity. Yes, we agree. We are in a sea of mediocrity, and mediocrity is pervasive in the land. I agree. But a star performer doesn't allow the environment to define him or her. A star performer says, see, I will deliver excellence because it's one of the standards I hold myself. That's point number 2. You hold yourself to a higher standard, whether the environment values mediocrity or not. You hold yourself to a high standard, because every time Chike and I will go to teach, and sometimes you go to organizations, well, for some people have attitude issues, but we hold ourselves to high standard, and the standard is that we must deliver excellence, whether they pay fantastic, amazing or not. It's a standard we hold ourselves. And what we've seen in that in some of those organizations, we start seeing changes happening. Let me say this. So see this. The organization might not value what you've done and you came there, but somebody in that organization starting the class and values it and calls the wife or calls the husband and say, hey, there's somebody, I attended this training and we get a job, we get breakthroughs, and the thing opens the door. This brings me to the second point. So first point is that you need to derive that satisfaction internally from yourself, not external. That's the first point. That joy of, I need to deliver excellence. It doesn't matter whether my environment likes it or not. Second thing would be, okay, if you work in an organization that doesn't value it, do you want to find an organization that values excellence, where you lend your service to that organization that values excellence? Because some organizations are looking for people that will turn their company around. And if they see that you have that, then so you want to work for an organization that values it. The third thing I want to say here, Uche, is that there's a law that I believe in. It's called the law of compensation. The law of compensation simply states that life will reward you. Life will reward you. Life will reward you for your excellent output, but it might not come when, where, and how you expect it. So what do I mean? And I've done this in banks. I've seen people who said to me, Maxwell, Dr. Max, I was working in this bank, I was not promoted, but I kept delivering excellence, doing my best. And someday a customer walked in, and just that interaction with the customer, doors opened for me in different ways, for my family, for the connections and the rest. The law of compensation works. It says that life would always, and that's one thing I believe. Take Joseph, for example, interpreted dreams and nobody remembered him. 2 years down the line, he was remembered. I believe that the law of compensation would work as long as we keep delivering excellence. Someday, somebody will mention your name before your Pharaoh. Somebody will give you the connection that you need. Somebody will give you, someday it would happen. Someday. And we are gradually getting there as a society. Well, if you give up now, it's almost difficult for you to come back from mediocrity again to excellence. So I'll say, Uche, persist, derive joy from your personal values of excellence. Look for organizations that value your services so that you can lend your services to them, and believe in the law of compensation. The law of compensation will work ultimately. Wow, my time is fast spent. I have 7 more minutes to bring this to a close. I've talked about 3 things. Let me talk about number 4. Number 4 here is that you need to take initiative. I think for me, initiative is doing the things that you know you need to do without being told. Star performers are self-motivated and self-driven people. So they don't wait for their words to tell them what to do. So they come, so you can add in initiative, you have 2 things. You have foresight and insight. Foresight is what needs to happen. Insight is, it says, what must I do now? And when you combine foresight and insight, you find out that that's what initiative is. So I come to work and say, okay, what must happen this week for this week to be a great week? Then once I decide that, I come back and say, so what must I do now in order for me to make sure that this week becomes a great week? And I don't wait for my boss or wait for society to tell me what to do. Star performers are people who take initiative. Number 5 is that star performers also are people that develop great relationships. There's so much to say about this. Relationship is important because in the second definition of star performers, they are great team players. They have great relationship with their bosses. They have great relationship with their colleagues. So you might need to have a mentor, because a mentor can show you things that you do not know. So star performers have people who, in that relationship, people who will speak the truth to them. So people who will tell them, well, hey, this particular report is not good enough. They take feedback. And I'm trying to remember, was it Stephen Covey that says that feedback is the breakfast of champions? They take feedback. So they have great relationship with people, and they are willing to accept feedback from people and listen to them and make the corrections that need to make the corrections that they need to make. They make those corrections. My time is fast spent. I hope this show you've learned one thing. At least you know who a star performer is. Somebody that consistently delivers high performance and also works collaboratively with people to achieve organizational results. You know the reasons why you need to be a star performer, from a personal to organizational to national. You know some steps that we've shared on becoming a star performer, the realization that you're bigger and better than where you are. I can, I will, I must. Holding yourself to high standards of performance from your personal values and your goals. Developing skills, pushing the envelope of your skills to extraordinary dimensions. Taking initiative, don't wait for your word to tell you, and developing relationship. And a big part of that relationship is having people who can hold you accountable and give you feedback. As I bring this to a close, I want to thank Halima for the call from Lagos and ask the question, what do you do if you have a colleague that is trying to undermine you? And we gave some, make friends with the colleague, escalate to your boss, escalate to HR. Menora, thank you. You added a lot of points. And from Owerri, thank you for all the points that you added. Joe Max from Kogi, the guy that almost wanted to commit suicide in quote, and you helped that person. Thank you for saving a life. That's the vision, changing one life and one family at a time. Let me say this, you didn't just change one life, you changed a generation. For every life you touch, you're actually touching a generation. So thank you, Joe Max from Kogi. Lawal from Oshu, thank you for your concept of inelastic demand. And Uche from Lagos, thank you for calling and says, hey, it can be discouraging working in an environment where excellence is not appreciated. But remember, you derive your greatest joy from that personal fulfillment of delivering excellence. Look for organizations that value that and believe that life will always reward your effort. I am Dr. Maxwell Ubah. It's been a privilege to come your way this evening on the Chike Onyia Speaks live talk show. Next week, the show continues next week. So tell your family and friends. Another topic will be coming up next week. You don't want to miss this show every Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. West African time. God bless you. You have a great evening.